Today, I'm welcoming my first guest to the podcast. She's had a seat on my board for many years. Meet Renee Spears, my spiritual life and business mentor. Welcome, Renee.
Oh, Mary, I'm so happy to be here. And it's an honor to be your first guest, too.
You are a big part of the reason, maybe the reason why I'm doing this podcast in the first place.
Oh, I feel honored. Thank you.
Seems like the last time we talked was the end of December, right around my birthday, right around the new year. And do you remember what you told me then?
I don't know.
I have some notes.
Of course
And
you do.
I'm gonna put it in the first person because I switched it around. I can do anything. What do I want to do? And to ask myself, is this how I want to spend my time? How do I want to spend my time this year? What is possible? Keep an open mind. Be very particular about how I want to spend my time.
I think that's one of the fabulous things about aging. I mean, we can clearly make that choice anytime in our lives, but I think we're more aware of it and the limited amount of time that we have left as we age.
Hmm.
And that's really what got me to sell my mortgage company and start, doing spirit guide channeling is that question and pondering, like, what do I want my life to be? How do I want to spend the time that I have left?
Hmm. How did you know it was time?
Intuitively. I think you intuitively know, like, I'm done with this. And I think some people don't listen to that. And that's where we start to see depression, and you don't want to get out of bed. And maybe you start doing, all the avoidance things, the overeating, the net, we know the things. So yeah, it's definitely was my intuition saying, you know what, it's time for something new.
That's a big jump. It seems like, from my point of view, a big stretch. Mortgage industry to what you're doing now. Do you want to tell people what you're doing now?
Well, I am a spirit guide channeler and a spiritual mentor. I also host a podcast like you do, Mary. But yes, that's what I do now, really moving from the financial world. And I had my own company, so I wouldn't consider it corporate, but definitely had to work with a lot of corporations
Mm-hmm.
to now, I work 4 hours a day in my yoga pants and my t-shirts, over Zoom and go hiking and read books and take naps. So it is a big shift.
You're somebody who is really good at listening to your intuition. Have you always been?
Always,
Always.
always. And I think I credit that to my parents for asking me lots of questions.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about this? What do
Mm-hmm.
you think about this? Which,
Mm-hmm.
sets you up when you're younger to really pause
Mm-hmm.
and reflect, well, what do I want? I
Mm-hmm.
remember them particularly about money, you know, and it was when I had a job when I was, babysitting, and my first jobs delivering newspapers and all that stuff. And there would be something that I would want to buy. And they would say, one, is this worth working X number of hours for you? And
Mm-hmm.
two, will it make you happy?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really got reflective for each decision. Is
Mm-hmm.
this worth it? Will it make me happy?
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, how do you figure out, or how did you figure out what you wanted to do next?
I didn't. I'm going to be honest with you. When I sold my mortgage company, I had no idea. I just knew it wasn't that. And so I remember the first week, where I had sold it and standing in my living room, like looking around, like, what do I do now? I had no clue what was next. So I spent that week in my pajamas doing puzzles and eating chocolate, and it was fabulous. But you can only do that for so long. And then I gave myself some time for it to come to me. And sure enough, I was getting acupuncture one day, and just everything flooded
Mm.
in. Well, this is what you're going to do. And you're going to call it abundology. And I'd never heard of that word. I went home and Googled it. Is like this even a word? And it just kind of fell into my lap.
Is it a word?
Somebody else had used it once before, like a
Okay.
decade ago. So I thought, you know what? It came to me. I'm using it.
Well, now when you type a bundology into search, your name comes up.
I know.
It's synonymous. But this is a good thing because now I'm thinking, okay, eat chocolate, do puzzles. In other words, if I translate it to me, like do things that are fun for me, do things that are right, like kind of your brain's still working on things. You're still open to ideas. Just because you're playing, working a puzzle doesn't mean you're completely shut down.
Yeah. And I think we need breaks.
Yeah.
I don't think we're built to go leave one thing and immediately start the next thing,
Yeah.
especially after being in the mortgage industry 30 years. Like, can
Yeah.
I just have a break for a few months to
Yeah.
myself?
Yeah. So what does a typical client look like now? Is there a typical client?
Oh, mostly women, I will say, mostly 40s, 50s, 60s,
Mhm.
all really looking to live their best lives. I would say that.
Mm.
Looking for some clarity. And most of the time, I think they come to me, their intuition already knows. And they're coming to me more for clarity because the
Mm.
spirit guides will pass on messages and it's what they already know. I feel like I just reassure people of what their intuition already knows is real.
Yeah. I think back when I first started, I guess, working with you, you still had your mortgage company, but you were holding these classes in the office, or classes is what I call it, but these gatherings in the office. And it was my first exposure really to this new way of thinking, of attracting things to you, of deciding what you want and being really purposeful. And I came across, I went back looking at notes because I still have my notes from March 4th, 2013.
Wow.
And the takeaways are extraordinary. Here's one. What do you want your life to be? What are you willing to do to shift to that place? Looking at that and thinking about that, I was just like, wow. Also, that it's okay to want things. It's okay to be dissatisfied with how things are now. That had never occurred to me. I came from such a place of just be happy with what you have. I mean, there's gratitude, but there's also this putting yourself in a box thing, which I think I had done. And so being exposed to you made me think this is possible for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of us grew up like that with not even thinking things are possible. It's not for me. I don't have enough money. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not enough. It's
Yeah.
just not true.
Yeah.
So
It
it's good to have friends that
is.
remind you that it is true. You can have these things.
Growing up poor or with a sense of lack, and also, there's a whole religious component, where there's a godliness, poverty, chastity, like that whole mentality, which kind of just hangs out there. What I felt I needed to fix things was money, right? Which you taught me how to manifest that fast. Yeah, I went from my income of $3,000 a month to $15,000 a month within the first 8 months of working with you.
Wow, I did not realize that. That's incredible, Mary.
Isn't that amazing? So,
Yes.
but it kind of made me realize like, oh, I can do that, but this isn't it. That the money isn't it, which is the thing that like, wait, what? Okay, I can do that. That's easy, but that's not really for me where it's at.
Another thing that when we're younger, we're taught, we'll be happy when we find a
Yes.
partner, when we get the job, when we
Yes.
graduate, when we buy the house, when we have
Yes.
money. And I think another gift of aging is that we really have done those things. And we realize those aren't the things that make you happy.
Yeah.
You make you happy.
Yeah. Also, being so specific in figuring out how I want to feel. You've taught me that, how I want to feel, because once I know that feeling, and I think right now, by the way, it's ease. I think I definitely want more ease in my life. And I've said that for a while, but literally everything that I've come up with that I think I want for this year and moving forward kind of comes back to that. Even so much as a strong, healthy body sure makes it easy.
Yes. Yes. Ease and joy and freedom.
Yes. Oh, so good. Well, we're recording this March 19th, 2024. On your most recent podcast, you talk about how changes in the air and you talk about the equinox season. And I was telling my husband about this. And, it's the perfect time to birth new things into the world and to reinvent ourselves. And he said, did she do this podcast just for me? And I said, it feels that way every week.
I hear that from so many people. And I would love to say it's me, but it's really that everybody's energy is in alignment, I think.
It's so interesting that you say that because a lot of times we feel very alone in the world.
Mhm. Yeah, we do. I think that makes life harder.
I agree. Listening to your podcast, I feel less alone because you can feel there's this whole collective energy that is moving forward. And, like Corey and I were talking about it as we were walking, just why not sink into that energy and ride that wave and then take the breaks with the universe and the rest of the collective energy?
Well, and I think of the times where we have as a collective been in it together after 9/11, during COVID,
Yep.
and horrible times, clearly, but some of the times where I think we felt so connected to
Mhm.
everything else, to other people, but then also to higher power, whatever that means to you, God, the universe, your intuition, your higher self, whatever that means to you. I think that that's the connection that a lot of us are longing for too.
I feel like we could have weathered the pandemic better had we been more connected to each other.
Yeah.
Felt like there was a lot of people in their own silo house, doing for themselves, but when you look around, pop your head up and look around and you ask your neighbor what they need, do they have toilet paper? Because I have a storage room that has plenty of toilet paper and just things like that. Boy, it sure makes it easier.
Yeah, I moved after the pandemic from Portland to Bozeman to Montana, and it's a different vibe where I'm not attributing anything bad to Portland. I
Mhm.
loved it. I lived there for 20
Mhm.
some years. But in a small town, there's a different help yourself, help each other out vibe.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of times that maybe my car got a little stuck in the snow and whoever's house it was in front of came out, dug out around my car, sent me on my way.
Yeah,
It's just, I love that feeling of community.
I do too.
There is an elderly woman that lives in my building with me. It has a dog, and it was super cold here, -40.
Oh my gosh.
And I offered to take her dog out just because there's no way that this woman should be out there, with her cane, walking her dog in the ice and -40, simple things like that, I think
Yep.
make a huge difference. Okay, in her life, but in my life, it
Yes.
made me feel so good to be able to do that.
Yes. I agree completely. I have a neighbor who has dogs, and sometimes he's not able to get back to let him out, and he'll just text me and ask if I'm available. And when I do it, when I'm able to go and do it, I always text him back and say, "Thank you for asking me," because that's you're giving me the gift of letting me do this for you. And I don't know, it seems like somewhere along the line we kind of got out of that habit. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I want to ask you a question about big energy and preparing. Is it possible to prepare? Thinking about the equinox. Is it possible to prepare or to get yourself ready for a big energy event?
Oh, absolutely. Often the best thing to do for big days like that is to clean out your stuff, clean your
Mm.
home, maybe clean your bodies, maybe clean eating for a while,
Mhm.
get any of the stagnant energy of your home, open the windows, smudge, charge your crystals ahead of time. So I would just think of clean. This
Okay.
let me be in that spot.
Hmm. I think then I'm just thinking in my own situation of looking at what's next. I think I should continuously do that to prepare for whatever's coming.
I think that's one of the most powerful things that I have given myself and done for myself
Mhm.
is keeping my home clean. I mean, I'm human, occasionally there's days the dishes sit in the sink. That's no big deal. But I'm very aware before I do clients every day, I put on my diffuser with the peppermint oil to clean the energy in the air. I clean my crystals.
Mhm.
Um, outside helps us inside, just as, so if I want to be clean and balanced and clear here, I want
Mhm.
to keep my environment clean and balanced and clear.
You asked on the podcast, how would you like to start over? And the first thought that entered my head was, what if the answer is, I don't know? What do you tell someone?
I get that question more than you would think. When we don't know what we want is clarity and just allow it. We try to force so much, in our lives, get this stuff done in this time period, and I'm going to finish these things. To-do list. I love a to-do list, by the way, but still, if I don't get it done, I don't get it done. Can we just allow, can we just allow the clarity? Can we just allow our lives to unfold and be happy and have ease?
What do we do when it feels like it's not working?
You go for a walk, you calm down, you maybe call a girlfriend, and you just relax because it's always working. It's just not on the time frame that we want things to work. A part of once again, a fabulous thing about Act 4 is knowing that things don't come in the time that our human selves want them to come. They come when our soul is ready. They come in divine timing. So we can just relax and literally enjoy the journey.
This feels very uncomfortable for someone who's always just had a plan, worked the plan, and things happen.
Yeah, we know we're well aware and we're excellent at a plan and working the steps and getting there. We can do that all day long. But what if we just knew where we were going, or really just the feeling, what we wanted to feel and experience?
Yes.
And then we just allowed ourselves to get there. We enjoyed the steps and the process of getting there.
Mhm.
Feels so much easier than working the plan, getting up every day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ease again. See,
Ease.
ease,
Yep.
ease, freedom, ease. Yeah. And I think relaxing into it, that is probably what's next for me. I don't know about the listeners, but just relaxing into this energy, what's going on in the universe, um, working a puzzle, going for a walk, giving you a call, setting up an appointment. You also have classes. I've attended your classes. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, I occasionally will do classes. I just did one last month about how to communicate and talk to your spirit guides. It was super fun. I don't have any coming up soon, but I do have a women's wisdom circle. I do those also. Yes, I occasionally do think whatever my intuition is telling me to do.
Mm.
So I have kind of, after 30 years of being in business, 20 years of owning my own company, I've kind of thrown the whole planning thing out the window. Yes, I still have a general plan of what I want to do, but I
Mhm.
leave it open for when I feel inspired for something new
Mhm. I
and
like
then
that.
allow myself to do that.
I like that. Recently, I've thought a lot about the issue of identity. What do I say that I do? Who am I without a title?
Yeah, I know. Who I remember the first time after I had sold my company and somebody said, "What do you do?" And I went for the same answer that I'd given for 30 years. And it was like, what do I do?
Mhm.
I enjoy life.
Yeah.
I allow myself to be happy. I work with super great clients all over the world.
Mhm.
I used to think of it more like a sales pitch,
Mhm.
of what I did. And really, they're just being, people just don't really want, I don't know, necessarily know what you want to do. It's just a question to get to know you.
Right.
So if I can just give them something about me that, can get them to know me a little bit better and then ask
Yeah.
them about themselves,
Yeah.
it just feels better. I think the gift of this time in our lives is that all of the facades that we've put on, or the other
Mhm.
identities, the boss, the mom, the
Yeah.
wife, whatever those may be, we're really shedding those to like, who are we authentically?
Yes.
And it feels so much better.
Yes. And the more I do that, and actually the more I show people who I really am, there was always, this fear. Well, if you show them who you really are, they're not going to like you. They're not going to hire you. They're they're going to see you. And that might not be a good thing. All those things. No, no. In fact, the opposite's true. We're just humans, and we're all a lot alike. And it sure is refreshing to just have people show up and just be themselves.
And just be, without trying to sell you something or the
Yes.
false version so they think you'll like them more, whatever it may be.
Yes.
Can
Yes.
we just cut through all the bullshit to get to the authentic version of ourselves?
Mhm.
I love when we talked, and one of the things you said to me was, I'm doing this podcast for me.
Yeah.
And I love that because when I started my podcast, same thing. I was doing it for me. I had had an assistant for my 20 years previously that, I could be honest, she did all of the tech stuff and the admin stuff. I didn't really do anything like that. And so just even learning the technology was a big growth curve. So I got to learn that. I got to experience my uncomfortableness talking in front of people and being recorded and hearing your own voice. Oh my gosh, that used to be really, really bad for me to listen to that. But here I am coming up on 50,000 downloads. I've been doing the podcast now for 5 years. I know. And I do it for me. And I feel like it's a gift I give myself. I've learned so much about me. Yes, I share information. I'm doing the research every week, and it feels good to share that with people.
Mhm.
Bottom line, I'm really doing it for me.
I love it. It's kind of, by doing these things, it's sort of like, oh, I go to the gym and get paid, or I go to the gym
Yes.
and, it's the things you would do automatically for yourself, or you should do for yourself. This is what we're doing now. It's so interesting. The other thing that really struck me was you and I talked last August, and I thought at the time we were talking about another project I was working on. And really, when I look back at my notes, I think it's what I'm doing now. I looked back and here's what it says: do what lights me up. What do I want to do? No roadmap. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the journey today. It needs to be authentic. Don't over edit it. It loses energy. Question how things are being done. They don't have to be done like that. Can you even
That's
believe it?
no, that's great. So why you have such wise guides.
I
And
do.
what I love too is how they set things up in steps. If
Yes.
at that moment they had said, Mary, you need to start your own podcast and do da 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 da, you'd be like, nope.
It's just so interesting. And you're right. I absolutely would have said, I don't think so.
Yep.
But they're just tapping, you know,
Yes.
it's,
Push.
you always provide me with a recording. I'll go back and watch it once, take some notes, but I just thinking, man, it makes me want to go back and listen to all of them and see how these guides have been, what's been going on, how the groundwork has been laid. Because that's the thing, when it's difficult, we can't see the progress sometimes because
Yes.
we're so in the moment, and it's just like whether we're feeling stuck or no progress is being made. I'm not sure what it is. But then when you pull back and look at the big picture and say, oh, here's where I was, or like my example, 8 months, in an 8 month period of time, this is what the income shift looked like.
Well, I like that about journals too. I do gratitude writing, which is sometimes includes a little bit of journaling of what I'm thinking for that day. And just to go back and read like a year ago and go, wow, everything I wrote about now is here and happening. One of the reasons why I have to say I love Facebook, because you get those memories, and it's
Yes.
like, oh yeah, look how far I've come.
Mhm. Do you want to talk about persistence?
My podcast. I have to say, owning now, this is my third company that I've started. That's the key. That's the key, is just being persistent and consistent,
Mhm.
showing up for yourself and
Mhm.
doing the work. Yeah, it doesn't have to be every day, but you're consistently showing up.
We look forward to it too, every Sunday when it drops. I mean, I'm paying attention to it. Even if I'm not available to listen that day, it's like in the back of my head that it's there. It's just, I don't know, it's very comforting.
Thank you, Mary. And I
Well,
really enjoyed your podcast too. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts.
well, mine's so small. It's easy. It's an easy listen.
Yeah, that's what I like about both of ours, is it's just a small little chunk of wisdom.
Well, thank you for joining me today. If folks need a reset, how can you help them?
Oh, I would love to work with any of your listeners. They can just go to my website, abundology.com, and book right there, book an appointment there. I work with people all over the world. So no matter where you are, this week I've talked to somebody from England, India, Australia, and New Zealand, which is cool. I know. I also, as you have mentioned multiple times, thank you, host the Abundology podcast, and I do a weekly energy update that comes out every Sunday. So you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. Once a quarter, I work with and talk to the astrologer Deborah Norton, and she focuses on what's coming up in astrology for that next quarter of the year. And I just released one yesterday about what we can expect this spring, and it is a time of big shifts and big changes. She says this is a time that we launch forward. So I'm excited for this spring.
Which is exactly what you said on Sunday.
I know. I wish I know. I like it when things actually line up and we're saying the same thing.
Sometimes I wonder, is it just because it's what I need to hear right now that I'm hearing it again?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to chat about? I'll
Mhm.
close it out separately. So
I think we covered it. Nothing's coming to mind.
we covered a lot, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy this podcast, please share this with a friend. For more information about Renee, you can find it in the show notes. Bye-bye.